Okay, in this video we're going to be talking about the Menagerie, both part 1 and 2, and I'll tell you how we're going to do it after this. Hello out there, I'm the oldest nerd, and in reviewing the Menagerie, what I'm going to do is separate the parts of the original pilot, The Cage, which we'll review in a later video. What I want to do here is kind of put together what was wrapped around the original pilot in order to make 2 episodes, the only 2-part episode in the original series. Now, the idea was that when pilots were made for television, they were just an idea to get someone the taste of what the show was going to be about. And then when the show went into actual production, there would be some casting changes. There might be some modifications to the format and things like this. It was kind of a way of seeing what worked and what didn't in many cases. And so this was never intended to be aired, as most pilots are not. However, as they found, this was a very complicated show to do. This is 1966, and in 1966, Desilu Studios had sold not only Star Trek, but Mission Impossible. Both of them required a lot of special effects, and they had just about every special effects house in Los Angeles working on these 2 shows, and a small studio like Desilu actually took on both of these so they could prove that they could play with the big boys with Paramount and Fox and Warner Brothers and such. And so they kind of spread themselves thin in order to get these shows produced. And in the case of Star Trek, it was difficult to get all of the special effects and post-production done, and they knew very soon in the first season that they were going to have to do something to catch up in order to be able to keep a very long show lineup. There was something like 28 shows in the first season. So in order to keep this going, they had to do some things that would express things along. And one of those ideas, when they were getting kind of behind on their post-production, was taking The Cage, which was already produced, and all they had to do was have a couple of shuttlecraft scenes, a set built for Starbase 11, and the briefing room redressed into a courtroom for Spock's court-martial. And so that's what we're going to talk about here, is how they did these, what we will call wraparounds to the original pilot, and how they made it work. Rather than a story about the Enterprise encountering this planet where people create illusions, what this 2-parter is about is Spock's loyalty, not only to his present captain, but about his previous captain, how far he will go in order to do something for the people he respects. And in this case, he put his entire career on the line, and in explaining it near the end, he tells Kirk that he did not want to endanger Kirk's career by including him into the plot. That Spock has put together a very elaborate plan in cahoots with the keeper on Talos 4. And in doing so, what he does is that he kidnaps Captain Pike, who had been injured. Now, we know from Strange New Worlds that Pike knew what was coming, that Spock knew about it, and we're starting to see in that show just the respect and the relationship that Spock and Pike had. So it adds something to this episode, as Spock is going to put together a very elaborate ruse. First of all, by reprogramming the computers at Starbase 11, a redress of the Enterprise engineering section, interestingly. Well done. Kidnapping Pike, hijacking the Enterprise, and then hoping that Kirk and the Commodore would, when they nearly ran out of fuel, turn around and go back to Starbase. But perhaps he never really counted on that, since he knew very much Jim Kirk's determination. That's another thing that's shown in this episode. And that determination would be to go beyond the halfway point in getting back with enough fuel. And so the second part of his plan was to create this necessity for a court-martial, which would buy enough time for them to arrive at Talos 4 and at the same time explain what his motivation was. It's a well-told story. It was written by Gene Roddenberry, and it was a very clever use of previously shot material, a way of explaining it in canon, giving you another profile of Spock. There will be many during the original series of what motivates Spock, what Spock's background is, and things such as this. This caused some of the discord, really, between he and William Shatner. They were close friends, but they were also rivals, and that is something that started about here. Spock was just a much more interesting character to write for, no matter who played him, and of course, Leonard Nimoy played him to the hilt. 11 years after Spock joined as an ensign, the Enterprise crew, that Pike turns over the ship to Kirk, and by the dialogue here, we believe that it is 2 years or so, a little less than 2 years, probably a year and 8 months, that Kirk and Spock have worked together. And in that, we know that it was a Class J starship. It was a cadet ship. Plating came loose, causing delta rays to be emitted, and Pike went in and saved as many of the cadets as he could. And that is, of course, what caused his injuries, which put him in the chair. What I would almost say is an unnecessary character is the Commodore's secretary, Miss Piper. He makes a big deal out of introducing Miss Piper, and Miss Piper says that she knows about Kirk's reputation, which then takes Kirk aback and says, "Oh no, she just said that she knew you." And then gives him kind of a wink as if to say, no, actually she knew a whole lot more. And you can see Kirk's discomfort when she's in the room of her prior knowledge of his sexual proclivities. More than 20 minutes of the first episode is spent in the setting up of this entire plot. So by part 2, mostly what we see is the edited version of the cage, and only at the very end where they have an excuse to let Spock off to allow Pike to go to Talos 4 and to let the Enterprise go on its way. It ends with kind of a light moment where Kirk is going to talk to Spock about his flagrant emotionalism, and Spock saying, "Don't insult me. I was acting logical all along." We will differ with that, and I'm certain that that Kirk does too. Before you go, however, please do subscribe to this channel and let us know what you think of the episode and what you may remember about it, or if you have some inside information that you've read or heard about, you can share that with us too in the comments below. We invite you to do so. And until next time, don't go far.